is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 150.
Man.
My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him... Ian.
Oh, my God.
Sitting here, midweek, Austin, Texas. We're back, baby. Second half of the season is here. How you feeling?
I've took the words right out of my mouth, brother. We're fucking back, man. I'm ready to roll. It was a good and needed little break there from having to go to games, watch the game somewhere, wherever we're traveling to, whatever. But I'm excited to be back, ready to roll, going to Colorado. Let's do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming up on another double game week. So it's going to be double pod week for us, right? Or double preview week, rather. Double recap week, double bets week, double best ball week. On today's episode 150, E. I don't know, what's the say? Is this is what? This would be our Mewtwo episode, I guess, right? 150 Pokemon?
That one went over my head, bro. I don't.
Well, ask your roommate.
Okay. He's the number.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of 150. What do you got? Anything?
I don't think I got anything for you there. My mind, I'm locked in. I'm focused on this upcoming matchup. I don't think I got anything for 150. Rest in peace, Jerry West. There we go.
Yeah, good call. The logo.
Big loss there.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have to come up with something cool, I guess, for episode.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to come up with something better than Jerry West died for 150.
Oh, goodness. We'll have to come up with something better for episode 200, which will be here before you know it. So we do have, of course, the Rapids preview here today. Also, a Timbers 2 preview there, last business day. Coming up later in the episode, going to give out some midseason grades. And this is something that I just sprung on you right before we hit record, E. So this is going to be off the top of the dome in terms of those midseason grades. Maybe a little rapid fire segment there in the middle to bridge the gap. And we'll close it out with some nonsense. Before we get into the rest of today's episode, just want to remind you all to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, because it helps us grow the show. As does hitting the subscribe button on YouTube. If you are watching there, you can also hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, on this episode, hit that thumbs up button, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. Before we jump into Colorado here on a Wednesday afternoon, just quick, hitting on those international recaps. Costa Rica taking on Grenada, 3-0 victory, so 7-0 aggregate in those two World Cup qualifying matches for Julio Cascante and Los Ticos. I don't know if you could ask for any better, right? Correct. No notes.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, well done.
A little bit of disappointment, I think, again, for Austin fans, at least the sickos who are out there braving the vuvuzelas and watching these Ghanaian matches. A shout out to the acid bath there. The Ghanaian matches, right? We're looking for our guy Usman Bukhari once again on the bench in the match against the Central African Republic, which was a 4-3 win, kind of a wild one there for Ghana. But as our buddy Phil West put it, they subbed in basically every available offensive substitute except for our guy Usman. So, I think the way I'm looking at this, to spin it in a positive light, can't get hurt if you're not playing. So, putting Usman in bubble wrap for us, and we're about a month out from him being available here for Austin.
Yeah, it would be sweet to see him potentially get some highlights, get a little more amped up about his arrival, but we're already quite amped, turned up to 11 on that one. So Roto probably put in the word, said, hey, careful with our boy here.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I wonder if any of that goes on in the soccer world. It does in the basketball world.
I don't know. I felt like when I said it, I was like, damn, I probably shouldn't say this, because then someone might actually take that into account and be like, Roto's telling the Ghanaian national team to not play our guy here. But maybe, man, who I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
great insight there.
Uganda and Bobasi Brawanga out there got the start in their second World Cup qualifying match. They were taking on Algeria. We mentioned that was a big matchup in Group G. 2-1 loss, 88 minutes for Bobo. Did pick up a yellow caution along the way there. And still, I think 6 matches remaining in this qualifying stage out there in the African Federation. In that group of 6E, 2 teams with 9 points, 3 with 6, and then Somalia at the bottom with 0. You got to be in first place at the end of this 10-match group stage to guarantee advancement to the next stage of qualification. So certainly some work to do for Uganda. And again, I know over the next year and a half, we will be losing Bobo probably every single time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just so happy for the kid, man, to be able to go out there and do that. Like we got so excited about him seeing here at Austin FC2. And, now we get to see him on this stage. It's awesome. Again, just stay healthy.
Well, I'm going to be I guess I'm going to be a little bit of a downer here because I'm looking ahead, right? I was like, how does this World Cup qualifying go in AFCON? And they won't pick up these qualifying matches again until March of 25E. So we will miss Osman Bukhari with the Ghanaian team, geez Louise, for, I think, a match or 2 in March next year. And then qualifiers in early September and early October. Down the stretch, we might be down a DP next year. And yes, that's how far ahead I'm looking. I don't like it. I don't like it.
No, we're really raining on our own parade here with first the Jerry West. Now we're looking forward to Usman not being available a couple of years or a year down the road. That is that's not tight. But let's just get him here first.
Look, especially if you're not going to play him. Don't take him from us if he's going to be an unused sub.
For real.
Can't have that.
You're already on the record for 25. We're a cup competing team. So
yeah, I know.
This is definitely a bit of a thorn in your side here, brother.
Let's talk about Colorado. Let's focus on the match that is ahead of us here. This Saturday night kickoff should be right around 8:40 p.m. Central Time out there from Dick's Sporting Goods Park. Of course, the all-time head-to-head record between these two teams. Austin, 2 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws. Last season, Rapids pulled off that last-minute draw at Q2 Stadium with Kevin Cabral right in front of us, sneaking that goal in the north end. And I think that is like 1 of 3 or 4 total goals in his Rapids career here over like the last year and a half. So that one hurt at the time. It still stings a little bit. And then, of course, Austin could not repay the favor late last season with that 1-0 loss at Colorado, which, again, that was rock bottom, I think, for me last year, was losing to that team. No matter who was available for us, that one was rough.
That was definitely the nail in the coffin for any small lingering hopes that I had for this team last year. That was a really rough one because they were fucking terrible last year.
Yes.
Much different team this year. They were terrible last year, but man, that game was absolutely brutal and we looked terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
but okay, look, let's pick things back up.
Come on.
Bit, right? Because look, our 2 wins in this head-to-head series have both come on the road. Of course, the first win in club history out there, right? Denver Day, April 24th, 2021. The 3-1 victory behind Diego Fagundes and his first ever goal for the club, or first goal in club history. And then a brace from former DP Cecilio Dominguez. And then the 3-2 victory on the 4th of July in that kind of magical summer of the 2022 season. That was the Iahora game from Maxi Arruti. Goal called back for the handball. Goes and gets another one anyways. So we've had some pretty great memories from playing the Rapids on the road here. I have heard that there is a traveling contingent upwards of 200 Verdes heading up to Commerce City for this one on Saturday. So there is going to be a significant Austin FC presence in the stands. And that gives me some real good vibes headed into Saturday.
That makes me so happy. And to know that on the broadcast, we're going to be able to hear them louder than all the Rapids fans, and they're going to be going nuts and everything. Like, that's just, man, it's beautiful. We're everywhere, baby. Denver Day, here we come.
Yep. So the Rapids, right? I think it would be kind of fair to say that we had opposite type of off seasons where like we didn't have a lot of player acquisitions,
Mhm.
right? Just bringing in the 4 field guys, Stephen Cleveland, and seeing 9 or 10 guys go out. They had a significant overhaul from the bench on down. Hired Chris Armas as their head coach. I know that some who have been watching MLS and paying attention to the league as a whole longer than we have, a little bit, a head scratcher maybe, bringing Armas in, because I think the thing he hasn't been able to do in his 2 stops, Red Bulls head coach, Toronto FC head coach, I think in between. I forget who. I think he actually was prior to Bob Bradley's stint there, but there's no sustained success on his head coaching record in MLS. And I don't think you could say that the Rapids have shown sustained success throughout the first half of this season, but there's no question that they're better because to coach's credit there, Coach Armas, they're just a point behind Austin FC in the standings, sitting 8th in the Western Conference now through the first half of the season. And you mentioned how bad they were last year. 22 points already this season. That's just 5 shy of their total of 27 in the 2023 season. So there is zero doubt, I think, to the eye test, on paper, results-wise, that this is an improved Rapid side. And I think the improvement is largely due to the fact that they brought in a lot of talent and starting with Georgi Mihailovic, right? Bringing him back stateside from AZ Alkmaar after he was sold on from CF Montreal, 2 seasons ago, all-star for them previously with the Chicago Fire. And that transfer fee, I found this very interesting, reportedly north of a $3 million fee to bring Mihailovic to Colorado. And that was enough to make him a club record signing.
Wow.
And I think this is a good reference point for any Austin FC fans who want to say to themselves that the Austin FC ownership does not spend, because the Rapids were founded 28 years ago, and in the last 2 calendar years, Austin FC has seen 2 inbound transfer fees of 6.4 million or more. So man, you want to talk about cheap owners, you look to our opponents here on Saturday.
That's some great insight, because absolutely that puts that into some more perspective, particularly even for me. That's a wildly low number.
Yeah.
Wow. They went through some turmoil last year, correct? They stopped going to games, right? Didn't their supporter section stop going to games?
I believe you're correct that near the end of the season, and it actually might have been in the match that we were up. That might be how we kind of remember that.
Yeah.
Because their supporter section was empty in that late September match. So I'll tell you what, I've watched probably 3.5 Rapids games live this year. Supporters are back, man.
That's awesome. I mean, I definitely recall them being very upset about the state of the club there. And then they go ahead and get, like you said, Mihailovic, bring in a new coach, try to revamp this roster a little bit. We were chatting before we got on the show here about the fact that they brought in some guys, who are MLS veterans, dudes have been around for a little bit. Then we brought up Omir Fernandez, who I'll let you talk a little bit about more, because you are going to be more versed in that section than I am.
Yeah, so like you said, right, it's not just Georgie coming in here. Yeah. First of all, they had a homegrown left back named Sam Vines, who they sold on in 2021. They reacquired him after 2 years with Royal Antwerp. And then you said Omir Fernandez, right, who actually was one of the youngest free agents in MLS history. Again, because we've talked about how funky free agency here or is here in MLS. And so kind of reunion with Chris Armas there, right? Because Armas was the Red Bulls coach for 2 seasons. And then you've got, big name here. I think certainly a guy that most would consider a little bit overrated, Zach Steffen, back stateside here after 5 years in that Man City system. I think just 2 appearances for City in his tenure there, lone stints with Dusseldorf, a lone stint with Middlesbrough along the way. But, and I don't think 31 goals allowed, we can say that Steffen has come in and really elevated that goalkeeping position. Again, True. William Yarbrough was there last year. So I think that is still somewhat of a struggle, but that central defense in front of him, Andres Maxu and Moise Bombito, I know, is kind of our guy. We watched a lot of him in the first half of the next pro season last year, and then really with the first team for the second half, and then to start this year. That dude topped out early in the season at like Hotter Oberon levels of speed. I want to say it was like 21 and a half, 22 miles per hour. He was in pursuit. I forget which game it was, but Bombito, yeah, starting to make some appearances, some caps, I think, for the Canadian national team as well. Definitely a much different, improved Colorado roster. And then like guys who were there already, I think are benefiting from the improved, the elevated talent floor around them, particularly Hafa Navahu. DP striker came in last year, was not as productive as you would expect somebody with that track record coming over from Palmeiras on loan, Brazilian, defending champions of Serie A there in Brazil. But he's turned it around this year, 12 goal contributions. Again, I think when you've got a guy like Mihailovic feeding you in behind, that certainly helps. But this is something I think, again, for those who like to pay attention to the other rosters and their movement around the league, I want to see what they're going to do with Navahu, because his loan expires at the end of this month, and the reported option to buy was $4.5 million. So I read some stuff that was saying the Rapids are trying to negotiate that option to buy down so they can potentially put him on a max TAM deal and open up that DP slot. So just something to watch if you're so inclined over the next 2-3 weeks or so. Because, man, the better Navahu does, the less likely it is that they can negotiate that fee down. So I found that a little bit interesting, as I tend to do.
Absolutely. I mean, this team, like you said, you talked about the goals that they've conceded this year, but they can definitely score. They create a lot of big chances. You see a lot of corners, or not corners from the team, crosses, some quote unquote wolf ball there. They're able to get out into space, but they also seem to be much more limited in their transition defense. I know you talked about Bombito and the speed there and everything like that, but you can score on this team. And I'm going to focus more so on like what we're going to do to attack them, because when I look at both of these clubs, I see flawed teams that are probably right around average. You have some games go your way like they did early in the season. You talked about that quality win versus NYCFC. Austin obviously have some fortuitous wins. Both teams have given up 5 goals to Salt Lake here. So we can empathize with the offensive power that Salt Lake has here. But we were talking before we went on the show here, and obviously no Danny. And how are we going to respond to that? Like, what's going to be our attack plan, our game plan going into this? Because we understand the road games. We're going in conservatively, and like in the most common logical situation here, we would say, okay, no, Danny, you're going to go ahead and slot Johan in. But I thought that you had some interesting points on that, so I'll let you speak on that a little more.
Yeah, so I guess, and again, I don't know, and I think the answer probably leans that we don't have the flexibility right now, the depth to really maneuver guys around like this. But I would like to see, against a team that I view as much more vulnerable than LAFC, who comes to town a week from tonight, and their high-powered offense. I would rather see Johan Valencia start that match than this one on Saturday. And am I, up in arms if we see number 5 in the 11 Saturday evening? No, of course not, right? I think that just, again, signals that more conservative approach, and probably just confirming the idea that we don't have enough wing depth right now to pull Owen Wolf off of that wing, because I would love to see, Danny out of commission here for the rest of the month. In this match, I would love to see Owen pulled back into that midfield, move Alex Ring back to the 6, because I know that, Danny's kind of superpower, for lack of a better term, off the top of my head, is progressing the ball at his feet, right? With that dribble. Alex, not so much, right? But he is going to be able to spray those passes. We've seen his service from that defensive midfield spot, throughout his Austin tenure. So I think that's, again, just a little bit more of an offensive, a little bit more of an aggressive approach. Because even though Alex is, certainly on the downside of his career here, not the absolute destroyer that he once was, with NYCFC and then in his first couple years here, I still don't feel terrible about having him back there.
No.
And, can we get Ethan Finley out there for a start? opposite Hodder Obrian and really try to take it to these guys. And then you've got Johan Valencia waiting in the wings. You know, we've got some center back depth. If John Gallagher is healthy, we have some, you know, fullback depth. And of course, then you can shift pieces around as the game goes. But I would love to see a little bit more aggressive style there from in terms of the lineup, and then hopefully translating to the tactics on the field. I don't think it's super likely, but that was just kind of sloshing around in my brain earlier today.
I mean, I'm on board with it. The only drawback, like you said, is the wing depth for me at that point, because obviously we know Ethan has been banged up a little bit here. We're trying to get some consistency out of him. I mean, like, we got time out of him, then he was out again. I forget the timeline of the games there. But yeah, it's just funny because obviously no Rigoni in this situation. You could obviously slot that in there and be good to go. But I just think given the lack of depth that we have on the wing position right now, it just doesn't seem that likely to me that we're going to move Owen out of that position, because I think then if you start Owen on the wing, you have the ability to shift him around after that point in time.
Yeah.
And with Johan, we have seen, and I do want to give him some credit for this. We'll see if it comes up in his grading later in the episode here. But he has been getting the ball off his foot pretty consistently with some pace and some consistency. So that's what we're looking for, because we're not looking for either Ring or Johan to replicate the line breaking dribbling of Danny, but we still need somebody to get this transition out of here so we can get that ball out of the zone, because we're assuming we're going to be absorbing a lot of pressure anyway, just given the style on the road. So I do feel a bit better about having Johan back there, but in an ideal situation, I'm with you. Alex back there at the 6, give us the speed, give us the youth of Owen in that midfield as that dual kind of 10. I like that. Now, the other big question that's obviously lingering here is what's up with 10? You know, we have not gotten that update yet. That is something that you can have the best plan going into this game, and then he's not ready to go, and now that plan's completely out the window. So where do you see him, falling on this injury report?
Again, man, I'm just glass half fulling this. We have not seen, to my knowledge, any footage of him participating in any sort of contact drills yet, but we did get some still images of him with the ball at his feet, right? At least taking, doing some drills.
Yeah.
With the guys, and not just warming up and stretching and that kind of stuff. So, you know, if we see him in some live drills, maybe in some of the, the hype videos or just kind of practice reports that they put out on social media, then I think all systems go. I think he's ready to roll. But I'm not surprised if they play it cautious with him, especially with 3 games coming up next week. So again, I'm treating it right now like he's ready, at least for, 60 minutes out there. But that could certainly be wrong. And if he's out, then scrap what I said, man. Go defensive. Like try to get this draw. Because we know. And again, you're gonna have your chances. You can probably count them on one hand if 10 is not ready to go. But just because he's out doesn't mean you can't go steal a win. But again, then I'm much more down for the conservative approach if he is limited in any way.
And another thing that's not working in his favor right now is obviously how thin we're going to be without these internationals and this month and how it's going to look. So I'm wondering if the coaching staff is taking that into account and going to be extra cautious with him. Obviously LAFC coming to town after this, but again, you look at these 4 matchups going forward, and we talked about, on the last episode before we took a little break, what we needed to see from these 4 games. I think we're in lockstep here, 4 points. For me, it was got to win at SKC. That was the game for me where I was like, that's where we really need to lock in. But I can't, again, these teams are very, very average, run-of-the-mill kind of clubs right now in MLS. And you can go and get a quality road win here up there in Colorado and set yourself up very nicely for these next 3 matches that will be challenging with LAFC. And who's sandwiched in there? Is it NYCFC?
Loons next Saturday.
Loons. Yes. Yeah, okay. So then
on the road,
obviously a team that has been at the top of the table for the majority of the season, someone who thoroughly embarrassed us first game of the year here. So, I'm having a hard time gauging how I really feel about this game going into, with the question marks around 10, with the question marks around our depth issues and like how we're going to approach this. I think the quote unquote 5-back formation needs to be eviscerated from any sort of potential game plans after looking what happened with Komanic, man. Like that was just a disaster.
Yeah.
I that could be a little too harsh.
I think it is.
Okay. I retract.
Okay.
We won't eviscerate it. We will look at it with some.
Let's table it.
Okay, we'll put it on the back burner. I'm fine
Okay.
with that for sure. But still, it even when we watched that game, it just didn't give me any sort of positive feeling about like this is something that could work because Zani's so limited in that spot. So I'm rambling a little bit here because I'm very concerned about this game and I don't really know how to feel, and I'm trying to convince myself how to feel about it. Obviously dealing with the elevation, never a good thing. So, I need to see some performances from the guys who have been there, like Diego. That is something that I would be like, again, I've been calling on him for the last couple of weeks.
Diego revenge match.
Exactly. Yes. So I've been calling on him for the last couple, weeks here to step up, but like have this little extra chip on the shoulder here. That's a prime recipe for Diego. He doesn't need much to get him going, but like, just add a little bit of element of revenge in there and we'll take it. So hopefully he can step up, man, because man, I'm just worried about it.
Can you imagine if he was put on the Chilean, their final Copa America roster, and we were missing him too?
I'd have to suit up.
Yeah.
Got the haircut. I'm ready to go now.
Yeah. Is the center back pairing for you Heinz Ike and Väisänen?
Yes.
Yeah,
just because I haven't seen Matt. We haven't seen him in any sort of capacity for so long here. And Leo theoretically should be getting that rust off, gotten that international duty. We've gotten some back in some time and everything. So yes, he has looked very shaky in his time. And that's also quite concerning to me. But with him in BHI, I feel good about that. Like you said, Johnny healthy. Obviously, you slot him right in there. And then you're going to see some CJ minutes, I would imagine, one way or the other, because again, you look at how thin we're going to be moving forward. You can't just run Alex Ring ragged here for 90 minutes in this matchup, given his age, what we're looking at going forward. Same with Johan, like he's going to need some time to he hasn't been put into the situation where it's like, we're asking 90 minutes out of you consistently now. So I'm concerned, man.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how we attack this with it. We've been shorthanded all year depth-wise, and now, it's, I don't know, I think we're stopping short of code red because things could definitely get worse over the next 2 weeks in that department.
Absolutely.
All right, man. I mean, and again, it's not just Seba, right, that we're worried about. Is John Gallagher getting back to full fitness? Is Ethan Finley ready to go? I'm approaching this as we had a bye week. Everybody should be ready to at least play some minutes here, but we'll have to see. I think media availability probably Thursday, Friday evening we get that official injury report, and then of course Saturday evening we'll see who's good to go.
I am expecting a good bounce back game from Stuver though. There's no way that he's letting that last game impact his play here going forward, and I'm definitely anticipating him being on top of his game. And he's got to be pissed off about the All-Star shit too. I maybe not pissed off, but I don't know if Brad gets necessarily pissed off, but yeah,
I think he does. I think he
feel
just
some sort of way about it.
God, geez, Louise, dude. We do still have 2 guys on caution. Rubio still needs 4 matches without a yellow to avoid suspension. Johan Valencia needs 2. And of course, Danny, when he comes back, suspended. And Julio will still be on caution. One thing left to do, unless you've got anything else to add. How much is Austin FC winning by on Saturday?
Man, even I'm having a hard time generating up enough confidence here for this one. But this is a team we can score on. I'm banking on Brad having a good bounce back game here. So I'm going to go ahead and say 2-1.
Bastard.
And in the most ideal situation, you get those 2 goals nice and early. You bring the more defensive unit in, potentially get 10 off the field to save those legs. And, that's the perfect ideal situation that I'm looking for.
If you couldn't tell by my reaction, I also have a 2-1 Austin victory. So Guess I've left I've left my trepidation. I've left my hesitancy in the past.
Yeah.
Second road victory of the season coming up this Saturday, 2-1 for both of us. So let's go ahead. Let's run through some quick mid-season grades before we get into last business day. We're just going to go in order of minutes played here. So we're starting with should be all-star Bradley Scott Stuver. What's your Brad Stuver mid-season grade? And let's just go. You can do pluses and minuses, but we'll just go A, B, C, and F.
Oh, okay.
No Ds.
A plus for Brad Stuver.
Okay, A plus for Brad.
Been the best player the whole season.
I don't know if I can give anybody an A plus. I got him at an A, and that's maybe recency bias. I still voted for him every day, and maybe from some incognito windows too. But coming off 2 straight losses, giving up 5, I'll give him an A.
We weren't doing him any favors that last game. Obviously, he had the big error. I do want to say this last thing about the Colorado matchup that I have been thinking about as I was rambling on there. We have been viewed as a club that is a bit fraudulent. We don't have a lot of respect from the national pundits. I don't think a lot of other fan bases take us very seriously, the club that is. And you had that game versus RSL, which was really, the cream of the crop of the Western Conference. You got your ass beat. So, there's going to be a bit of drawback from the confidence levels, but I do think that this team really believes in themselves and that this is a game where you go out, you get back on the right track here. Like, this is a club, again, that we both think we can beat. And I'm interested to see how we respond, particularly with all the negativity surrounding us right now with injuries, depth, guys missing, all that stuff, getting our ass beat. Okay, going forward.
I like it. All right, next up, second most minutes on the team, Alex Ring.
I'm going to go ahead and give Alex Ring a B minus.
Okay.
He's created a ton of chances.
Yeah.
He's been right at the top for this team in regards to assists. I understand the limitations that he has when he's in the attacking third. And that's not a big part of his game. So it's not something that I really expect from him anymore. I'm not expecting bangers from Alex Ring. And he's been very solid in his time. And I think that he's shown a lot of great leadership qualities this season. Obviously, the tumultuous offseason, losing the armband, kind of falling out of favor. To be able to still be a vocal, positive kind of guy who holds others accountable, I think is really powerful. So I'm going to go ahead and give him a B minus.
Yeah, I was going to give B plus, basically for the reasons you mentioned, right? The shot creating actions, the goal creating actions have been great, especially early in the season. Finishing in the offensive third continues to leave something to be desired, but that's nothing new. I think, at least in my eyes. So B plus for me again. And I think maybe I'm putting a little bit of kind of like his bounce back with I think the public viewpoint on his relationship with the coach. Like, you haven't heard a lot of Alex Ring, Josh Wolf, and that was like one of the main storylines last year, right? And broke his media silence, right? Did the interview with Goodman, has done press conferences and stuff post-match, stepping up in that manner, a little bit more frontward facing. B plus for me. So moving on next, Johnny G.
C.
Okay.
And that might be a bit of recency bias into play. Him very much overachieving last year, getting the MLS All-Star nod, trying to expect that form from him every game, every season going forward might be a bit too much of an ask. But I think that when you look at some of the things that this team has really struggled with this season, it's been that back post, and that's Johnny's post, brother. And we're not getting the goal contributions that we got out of him last season. So I think C is pretty fair.
Yeah, no, I don't think I don't differ too much. I had a C plus in my head for him. Again, I think I'm not sure how fair it is for you and I to hold the lack of goal contributions against him, because I think there is a significant difference in what he's being asked to do this year. Be more defensive, not go on those overlapping jaunts up the right side. And to his credit, he is tied with Alex Ring in terms of total tackles on the year. So the defensive actions are there. He's leading the team in tackles won, both overall and in the defensive third. But again, I'm with you. I don't think I can sit here and think off the top of my head and pinpoint a certain game where it was like, man, Johnny really shut down that DP or that big name, whatever it was. So again, I think he's been fine. It's a passing grade from both of us, but nothing spectacular. Danny Pereira.
I give Danny a B+.
Okay.
I think he's been really good. I think when you look at the start of the season and what he was being asked to do from the coaching staff, I'm taking that into account into my grade because it was not necessarily what he was ready for. I think he has grown into that a little bit. I think we saw Danny's best game pretty recently when he was just absolutely fantastic in the attacking third, as well as providing all of the defensive stuff that he provides out there on the field, tackles, dispossessions, everything along those lines, interceptions. So yes, B+ for Danny.
Yeah. I got a B-. I think I was a little bit disappointed earlier in the year, maybe expecting him to step up a little bit more, really grab that spot. When Seba was out to start the year, we're kind of mixing and matching up there at those dual 10s. And, to his credit, we've seen him perform a lot better of late when he's in that more advanced position. But I think some of that has to do with Seba being next to him in those more recent outings. And again, I'm a little bit disappointed where I think the first 10 matches or so, that maturity was there. Like he was taking steps that we wanted to see in that area. And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. I think it was a 6-match stretch where all of a sudden he's suspended on yellow card accumulation. So B- for me, but I think that's like fringe, and like it would only take a game or two when he returns for me to get him back up to B+, maybe even A- range. So
fair.
Diego Rubio is next. I know I've been putting you on the spot here, so I'll go first. I've got a B- for Diego Rubio right now. And I think if you asked me a month and a half ago, this probably was an A- because he started the season with a bang. And we saw a lot of I think we had an episode titled The Dark Arts, right? And that was all about Diego Rubio. So he made a great first impression. But I think when you look at the body of work of late, right, maybe the last 7 or 8 matches, tone down a little bit of that attitude, right? That chaos that he was really creating kind of by himself in the early parts of the season. I think some of that was he's been on yellow card accumulation a couple times. But I also think maybe, and this is natural, right? When the ball's not going in, not going through the net, not going into the net when you're in soccer, right? Maybe you lose a little bit of that extra juice. So, B- for me on Diego Rubio, another guy who could turn my opinion back into an A- in a very short amount of time.
Absolutely. I mean, he was just on top of the world in regard to how this fan base viewed him to start this season. He was fantastic. So he's definitely come down a little bit there. So I'm going to go ahead and go with a B. Obviously, you see the goal contributions, and with a team that really struggles to score, he has been one of the players who has found ways to generate goals for us and still get some good chances. So yes, a B for Diego. I'm in the same boat. If you had asked me some time ago, he would have been absolutely a no-brainer A. But 1 or 2 goals here in this month, and you're right back up there for me.
Absolutely. This one kind of surprised me, just looking at it, kind of thinking where I'm going with Hodder Obrian. I've got an A.
Yeah, easy A.
4 goals, 2 assists. That is tied for the team lead in terms of goal contributions with Driussi. He is one of 4 players, including Brad Stuver, to play in all 17 matches. He is the only field player to start 16 or more of those 17 matches. He has been reliable. I think as the season has progressed, we have talked less and less about the dangers of his first touch, right? I think he's been awesome, man.
He has been absolutely fantastic. It's an easy A for me. And also that's with the harsh critique of the fact that he was like our premier signing in the offseason. You know what I mean? So like he came in with that microscope on him. We wanted him to perform. And after a bit of a bumpy start, rocky start, he has been absolutely fantastic. Not even all the things that you've talked about, but just the dynamic speed that he provides has really unlocked a lot of our offensive prowess. So I am all for the A on hot air there. He's been absolutely awesome.
Brendan Heinzike. I'm going to give him a B+. And I think this is certainly some recency bias creeping in, but I think it's a large enough sample now of Brendan being just a little bit more shaky at the back than he was through the first 10 or 12 matches. Like, I cannot knock the guy in any like serious sense because he has already given us more than I think anybody expected coming into the year. And you talk about, value per dollar on the cap sheet. He's up there at the top, if not number one so far this season. So, I couldn't quite get up into the A's for him.
I can. I'm going to go ahead and go A-.
Okay.
He has been such a wonderful surprise for this team. And while you were talking there, I was like interested to see because like you gave that grade for BHI there, so I'm interested to see where you go for Julio because in my opinion, BHI has been the best center back we've had for the course of this season. He has had some incredible deflections, some just very awesome tackles in tight spaces to get us out of danger. And I know he had a couple errors here coming up or as of late with some poor passes, but I can't just let that weigh too much on the entire grade that I was going to give him.
Yeah. I've got a B, kind of in between a B and a B- for me on Julio Cascante. I think he's been solid. He's kind of just been Julio, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got 2 goals on the year, just over 1,100 minutes. Again, he's only started 13 matches. So I think, again, he's been fine. Not an all-star. Not really the reason I think that we've lost any specific match. So, and whereas I think in the past, in almost every season, there's at least one game where you can point to, man, that was a tough match for Julio.
Yep.
I don't know if we've really had that one yet.
Particularly last year.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm right there too. I'm going to go ahead and go B. You get the 2 goals out of him. That is something that we love. We need here for this team. That is a component of our offense that we rely on to score goals and generate goals. So I am all for a solid B for Julio.
All right. Number 10, Sebastian Driussi. What do you got?
Oh, this is the toughest one, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just because it's an A+ if you're just looking at what he does for the team,
Yeah.
But then if you hold him to the standard that you have to hold him to as the only player on our team that you can hold, that's, that in that regard and that standard, it's potential to drop. He's dealt with the injuries. Still, we've seen what this team looks like when we don't have him, man. And like that is usually how like MVP races can be decided. Like you take 2 best players off certain teams, you try to swap them in your head, and like what do you come up with? And I'm gonna go ahead and still say an A-.
Okay.
Because we've seen him in his top form. And we know what he's fully, entirely capable of. The injuries is not something that he has any sort of control over. So hopefully I can see him keeping up, rising in my grading here, because he's just absolutely fantastic. And everything we do goes through him. And the amount of work and production that he has to generate for us, the amount of defenders that he has to draw to make other people look better. The hot air would not be A+ material if Seba was not the person who was opening him up all the time, finding him in space. So yeah, A-.
So I've got a B here.
Okay.
And you're talking about the standard. All I can think of is Mike Tomlin. The standard is the standard.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm holding him to. Like, I don't, would I like 20+ goals? Of course. But we don't need to see 20+ goals out of him every season, I think, to justify the salary he's on, to justify the role that he plays on this team. To your point, we know the talent that he brings. We know how important he is to the overall, the connectivity out there. Like pulling from Phil West's most recent article on Verde All Day, Austin FC 1.82 points per game this year in the 11 matches where Driussi has played 60 minutes or more, 0.5 points per game in the 6 matches, which he hasn't. So to your point, that's a significant enough sample size to say, man, like, again, this team, like we heard some of those pundits a few weeks ago, oh, if Driussi isn't healthy, then this team isn't a playoff team. It's like, well, yeah, there's brain blast there. So, but that said, we have seen moments of that brilliance, right? That game-winning talent on display, right? Maybe a little luck involved there with like the San Jose, the Rocket at the end of the match, but hey, them's the breaks, right? So I've got a B, just because I think even in the 13 matches played, only 12 starts through the first 17, I still think we can expect a little bit more than 6 goal contributions out of Driussi. And again, some of that is self-inflicted. He could have 7 goals if he converts all of those PKs. So it's a B for me.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, he's just the hardest one to grade it because obviously you know what we would be without him.
Guilherme Biru.
Ooh. A.
Yeah.
Again, just what a welcome surprise, having known nothing about this kid coming in here to being able to adapt to our system, the rate at which we were able to get him in and consistent minutes and everything. We couldn't keep him off the field. Yeah. Like, he was just too good to keep off the field. He adds a layer to our offense that we have sorely been lacking, the ability to shoot from outside the box with just like potency. It sparks a little fire in me. I love that dude, man. And it's an easy A for me. Again, one of these Roto boys coming in here. It's an A.
Yeah, I got an A- here. Really nothing else to add. I think what you said, can't keep him off the field, is well said.
Yeah.
And so just also the vibes that he brings. The guy is always smiling, has scored a couple bangers already this year, been close on a couple others. Really excited that he's, hopefully going to be around our club for many years to come. So
competitor too. You know what I mean? Like, he's
absolutely.
like going at Pompeo and everything, and Palacio the last game. Like, he's just always up for the moment, man. And I respect the hell out of that.
Yeah. Next up, Owen Wolf. 16 appearances, only 7 starts, which kind of surprised me. I feel like we had seen him in that 11 a little bit more. No goals, 3 assists, 815 minutes for Lobito. Well, what do you got?
A-.
Okay.
I don't think there's anybody on the team who has logged more minutes at different positions than this kid.
For sure.
And that cannot be something that goes overlooked, because we've talked about the depth issues of this team. Everyone who's a fan of this team knows the depth of the depth issues that we are experiencing right now, have been experiencing for some time. Owen Wolf has been slotted into multiple different positions under microscopes every single time he touches the field, just because the name on his back of his jersey. The kid consistently performs. You don't hear any bad shit about him ever coming out of the locker room. You don't see him do anything on the field other than, like, he'll take a hard foul too. Like, people don't like that. Gets completely overlooked. He's willing to go out there and mix it up, throw it around a little bit. And I've been incredibly impressed with his ability to not only perform in defensive situations, but then also being thrust into positions where he's needing to distribute the ball. Doesn't have the goal, but we've seen the intricate pass plays that he's had early in this season, as well as being able to hold the ball in tight situations and then track back transitionally in defense. I don't know if you have the figures on like the amount people have ran. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that exists somewhere in some capacity, and he'd be right up there. You went through the stats earlier in the season in regard to progressive passes, touches in the third. Goodman had the article about where he's leading us in certain statistical categories. And I just think that every time he has been called upon and asked to do something, he has done it well. Not saying great, not saying he's been exceptional in any sort of role that he's been asked to play, but you see him on the wing, you see him in the midfield, you see him at right back, you know what you're getting out of the kid. He's going to play hard. He's going to play defense. And I just can't say enough good things about him. I know he doesn't have the statistical stuff to back that shit up in regard to like goals and the cute looking stuff, but he does so much for this team. And I'm happy he's on our club.
Yeah, same. And I was gonna say B+, but I think I'm gonna join you on A-, because You jogged my memory about the stats that we were talking about early in the season. So we were looking at, the progressive passes, both distributed and received, the goal creating actions, the shot creating actions per 90, and how he was leading us, or I think in the top 3 of like every category we kept going through. And now half a season in, per 90 in terms of progressive passing, he's second behind Sebastian Driussi, 5.49 per 90. He is first in shot creating actions per 90, 3.4. He is behind only CJ Fodre and Giassi Zardes in goal creating actions per 90. And again, those guys, much smaller sample size of minutes. And talking about how he's a hub, not just distributing those progressive passes, but receiving them as well, behind only Hader Obrian and CJ Fodre in progressive passes received per 90. So I think A- totally fair there. Taking into account his role in playing in the midfield, on the wing, and at fullback this year. And again, I keep coming back to that, just 7 starts out of 17 matches.
That was
It's funny
shocking.
how some people think he starts all the time when that's just really not the case.
Yeah, I was definitely not going to allow my grade to be impacted by absolute lunacy. So I'm glad I went with A-.
Yeah. All right, Johan Valencia.
C-.
Okay.
He's just so limited in what he does. I don't expect much from him, if anything, on the offensive side of the ball, but not being able to just like complete standard basic passes just is really, just really hampers his grade in my eyes, because what he's going to bring to the field in regard to his toughness, his defensive prowess. Right. And I do like that he's a bit of an enforcer for us. I think that's fantastic. But you just begin to see how things deteriorate a bit more when he's out there on the field.
Yeah. I've got a C+ here. Because I think agree with everything you said there. But I think some of those points that we banked early in the season, especially before Driussi came back, those were some of his more solid performances. You look at starts again, Seattle on the road, St. Louis at home, Philly at home, point there. And could have had 3 against St. Louis. But then he also did start the loss against Portland. He started the loss against RSL. So, like, it's certainly not a perfect track record for Johan. So, a C+ for me. Again, man, got to keep your hands to yourself. Cannot have him getting suspended as well.
At this point with him, like we say, it's a maturity thing with Danny. At this point with him, is that also a concern? Because like initially it was like, okay, he's not used to how this game is being officiated. He comes from this Colombian league where it's much more physical and they let more stuff go. But he's been here plenty now. Also, our track record of being able to watch Colombian league games is not necessarily the gold standard there. So was it actually the case? Or is this dude just a hack? He's just a hacker.
Yeah. I mean, he is still behind Julio and Danny and Diego in terms of total yellows on the year. But if you put that on a per 90 basis, he might be in first, even with his 4. Matt Hedges, 6 starts, 8 appearances, 550 minutes. He's got a goal to his credit this year. I'm going to give him a solid B. I think he's been fine when he's been in there.
He's got 6 starts.
6 starts, yeah.
Wow.
This is all early in the season, man. You got to remember Leo was out, right? And Heinz Eich didn't start the season as our guy, right? So I think like 4 of those came in the first 5 matches or so.
C+.
Okay.
And I feel like that grade's a bit hampered by the fact that he's not getting the time anymore. And as well as BHI has played, you would assume that the ex-defensive player of the year, even in his bit older age, would be able to take some minutes off of him. So C+. But again, yes, he's been fine.
Jean Kolmanich.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'll give him a C+. He did go through the period injured, right, sideline. So he certainly hasn't had the easiest path in terms of trying to string some consistent performances together. I think ultimately, again, I view him still as the backup left back.
That's over.
Yeah, I mean, for the role that I think he plays on this team when fully healthy and fully stocked on the roster, C plus. But again, there hasn't been much that I've been impressed with there.
So C- is the lowest before I'd have to give him a complete failing
Yeah,
grade, right?
fail. You could say incomplete, I guess.
Okay, I'll be one of those cool college professors.
Yeah. Okay.
Incomplete.
For John.
You just see the difference between him and Biru.
Yeah.
And it's like, is this dude an actual MLS player? Like, is this an MLS caliber dude going forward? Like, legitimately, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
we got Guilherme for basically nothing from across the world.
Yeah.
And I know that I know he's had some injuries. I know he's been dealing with that. I know he's still a very, very young player. But like, I just don't see this dude developing a right foot at any point in time. And that's just a big concern for me. Like that's incomplete. You gotta be able to work with both feet. So yeah, C- / incomplete.
All right. Jossie Zardes.
Oh,
This can't be right. He's played in all 17 matches? No way.
He has to, right? We don't have a backup striker.
I guess, but like,
I mean, Rubio.
Yeah. 3 starts, 461 minutes with 17 appearances. Let me look at this match log here.
I mean, G, man, I'll give him a G because that's what he is. You know, obviously the numbers, the figures, they came out. And that's not, you know, I'm not going to take that into account because if somebody offers me $1 million to do something and, you know, like, let's play soccer, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't hold that against him. We know what he is at this point in time. I do want to say it's been impressive to see him gas some people up the sideline here. That fantastic assist to Seba is fresh in my mind. I will also give him an incomplete because we need the man to score.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that at this stage in his career, the only way that he's actually going to be able to do that is with service from somebody else. But he has mixed it up on 2 separate occasions to get us some goals. And that's what you're going to get out of him. So, again, I will also take into account the fact that he's a fantastic teammate. And I think he has a lot of really great leadership qualities as well in regard to leading by example. Yeah. And, you know, not everyone's a vocal leader. I think G is a lead by example kind of guy. And that's important for this team.
Well, I know you said if you got offered $1 million to play soccer, you would take it. But how about $1 million to play soccer every once in a while, right? Sit on the bench most of the time. That's not bad either. I'll give him a B- though, because of the things that you said, right? Even in some of these limited appearances, he has made some significant impacts, and that shows up in the stats, not just those 2 assists, right? But his goal creating actions, I mentioned, second on the team per 90. He's got 4 total, which is good for 3rd on the team this year. So even in the minutes that he's seen, again, that is just over 5 full games of minutes, 461 total minutes. Still, I think he's still making an impact, and one that got us legitimately 3 points against San Jose at home. So it's a B- for me. Ethan Finley. I think this one for me, this is where I have to grade it an incomplete because I think from the limited time we've seen, right, he has spent some time injured. But 11 appearances, 4 starts, just 411 minutes for Finley this year. No goal contributions. I think I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and give him an incomplete. Because what we have seen, I haven't been super impressed. Again, I think there was a legitimate drop-off. And that happens, right? And Father Time undefeated. But I think there's plenty of room for Ethan Finley to improve on what he put out there in the first half.
I will go incomplete as well. And that is with a heavy dose of benefit of the doubt for him.
Sure.
I'd want to say that he got the majority of his time right when Seba was not playing.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Which makes it very difficult
starts, right?
to
All right, man. Hector Jimenez.
Oh,
I got an A-, dude. I don't know about you, but like we've just gotten like 2, 3, 4 times as much as I expected out of him this year. 4 starts in the first half of the year. We have 7 points from those 4 starts. 2 assists. That's tied for 3rd on the team. I don't know what else you want from Hector Jimenez. We were talking about this guy being player coach.
Yeah.
A-.
A- for me as well. Everything you just said.
Nice. Love it. 2 more to go here. Leo Väisänen, 5 appearances, 3 starts, 274 minutes. This is the definition of incomplete for me.
Whew. I want to give him an F.
Okay. Well, tell me about
it. You know, I know he's got the injuries piling up, but like the time he's had out there, he has looked really bad. Like really bad.
Okay.
And that's not good for
the
guy who's supposed to.
That's not how you get a high grade.
That's not, you know, to be our CB1 man. And, you know, I like even now that he's back healthy, I'm not like, oh shit, if we have Julio, let's get BHI out of there and let Leo go.
Yeah.
And that's a huge concern for me. So I will also give him the benefit of the doubt because I'm a homer and I want this team to succeed. And I'll give him the incomplete.
Okay. Last one, CJ Fodre. This is a B- for me. Haven't seen a ton out of him. Obviously, the game-winning assist at Houston, that goes a long way for me in this grade because I think we've seen some of these other appearances where he looks a little bit shaky still. And some of that is to be expected, right? And I think we have seen, you know, this is just me speculating from afar. I think we've seen a little bit of maturity from him being able to bounce between the first and second team, knowing that he's playing a role with both clubs this year. And I think doing it well when his name is called, whichever pitch it is, you know, whether it's Barnum Field, Q2, on the road, what have you. So it's a B- for me on CJ.
It's a B for me.
Okay.
You know, to get that win for us, man, like with that header and everything, like that is just because the amount of time he's actually going to get out there is going to be so limited, and to make the most of that opportunity was just a huge step for in how I viewed him. And I hope it was a huge step for him as well to actually be like, yes, like here's some fruit from my labor, baby. Like we're getting, like I'm on the board, you know? And I thought that was fantastic. Again, another young man who is being asked to do multiple different things, juggle different things. He is getting much more acclimated to the system. And that's kind of what I'm judging him on most right now, is because that's what we need from him to understand how he want to play and how he's going to fit into that role. So it's a B for me, a solid B.
All right, let's do one more. Let's do Josh Wolf.
Woo! Good. Get me on record.
Yeah.
A-.
Okay. I have B+. So we're right there.
A-. We saw the things that made this team really, really struggle last year. And they were points of emphasis going into the offseason, defensive side of the ball, getting more creative with Johnny, understanding that we need him to be pinned a little bit back. And that's not necessarily how the coach wanted to play. And for as much flack as he has received about not being able to make adjustments, not being able to be flexible in his form, he has done things that have led to direct results for this team to be better from the form that we anticipated him to play. Like, I just think that he's done a really great job. The noise has been quite loud, as I've learned is pretty common throughout every single team, unless you're really blowing, you know, like unless you're really kicking ass. Like, there's always a chapter of the fan base who is adamant that the coach is the worst human in the world. So I'm learning that a bit more now, but I just think that he has been making the adjustments that this team needed. Like, how the question for me that comes up with, like, how good of a coach is, how good a coach is. Like, you can have the best system in the world, like be a genius, be an offensive mastermind, be a defensive mastermind. If it doesn't fit the way your roster is constructed, then to be able to find the balance between those two things is what makes you a really good coach. And I'm not saying he's gotten to that point yet, but I do think that he is taking steps in the right direction to be at that place. And now you're seeing that we're actually going to be getting players that play the system. So it should theoretically, hopefully, continue to grow and continue to build. But to keep this team together after last season with the Diego trade, with the tumultuous management having to fill that whole, that
mismanagement.
wear that hat, deal with the rain of shit, all of that. And to be here at this point in time, where we want to be, how we wanted to approach this season, right there on the playoff line, in striking distance. When it comes down to it, reinforcements arrive. I think everything has really gone to plan this year, and having dealt with not having a healthy 10 the entire season, and to be where we're at right now. So I got a solid A- for Coach Wolf.
Yeah. I don't think I have much to add there, right? Like, I think we've seen him be a little bit more pragmatic this year. And again, I think it's only benefiting him to be working with Rodolfo Borrell and getting notes from him on the daily, right? And being open to, and again, we don't know their conversations, their relationship behind the scenes. That's for the people behind the scenes to know. But it seems like he's been pretty receptive to working with a guy like Borrell and learning from him and putting that out there. And I think, to his credit, again, some of the stuff coming out of the locker room until around August 1st last year, I think wasn't necessarily his fault, or maybe not all necessarily true. But I don't think there's any doubt that at least the frontward facing perception is that he has that locker room gelling a little bit more, buying in more completely this year to what he and the coaching staff are selling. And again, keeping your head above water until these reinforcements, again, because those guys, whether it's Coach Wolf or the players, they've all known. They know the plan here. Summer window, we're getting some significant reinforcements, and then the team is going to continue to evolve in terms of the player personnel. So, it's B+ for me right there on that line. And then I think this can be very quick. We can do the GM, right? The sporting director, A+ Rodolfo Borrell. Do you have any notes there?
And we'd have to make an entire new grading rubric.
Yeah.
A++, gold star, team of the week.
Yep.
All-star, get a bumper sticker. My GM is the best GM in Austin. Yeah, I mean, fuck, man. We gave A's? I gave A's to every single other outside of Rubio, Roto boys. So, I'm just excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, and I think overall as a team, I think I'd give it an A.
Yeah,
where they're at, right? The whole
A-, yeah. Taking in everything into context, taking the injuries, taking the depth issues, taking the Rigoni situation, all the stuff that has been in flux for this team. Yes, A. We're doing what we want to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nobody had the expectation that this was going to be the number one team in the West. Nobody had the expectation that this was going to be a team that could make a really super deep run into the playoffs, given the current roster as we saw at the beginning of the season. So, A.
Yeah. Well, that went way longer than I intended it to, but we got our midseason grades there. You're on record, E. So there you go, Northland Podcast. Midseason grades for 2024. Let's jump into last business day here quickly to close out the episode. Timbers 2 coming to town on Friday, 8 p.m. kickoff at the pitch. In terms of what we're looking for from our opponents, 16 points from their 12 matches so far this season, plus 1 goal differential, 20 scored, 19 conceded. They're sitting 5 points ahead of Austin FC2 in the Western Conference standings. And again, a team that is remade, as many of these Next Pro sides are, it seems, year to year. Some of the guys you're going to be looking out for there, Kyle Linares and Josh Penn, both with 3 goals on the season, leading this team on the offensive end. Linares, 7 goal contributions as well. And then the name Harvey Neville pops up. That is the head coach of the first team, Phil Neville's son, who has followed him from Inter Miami to Portland, here playing with Timbers 2, I believe Harvey is a fullback. So I don't have many notes outside of those guys, just looking at how they aligned in their last couple matches. I think Linares and Penn, combined with what we saw in those lineups, their production across the season, I think the back line has their work cut out for them, especially if Tony Gomez is still sidelined.
That is something that we definitely do not want. Yeah, I'm just failing for this FCTO team right now.
Yep. And again, you're at home, but like we mentioned on Sunday's episode, like I really think this is one you have to get to stay in touch with the back end of that playoff race. Because again, we have not been good away from home. I think we've been average at home so far this season. So taking a look at what we could see in the lineup, right? We know Anthony Garcia was on the bench last week. We saw Alstrup back in net after Cervantes conceded 4 at Real Monarchs. Maybe we get a Chris Garcia sighting on the bench as well. That would certainly be a welcome sight because CJ Fodre not going to be with these boys here this week. You will get Anthony Deanda and Sebastian Pignot back from a yellow card suspension. So those will certainly be welcome sights, especially number 9 up top. So I'm excited to see these boys get back in action as well this week, again at home in the friendly confines. Hopefully we get another good showing from the fans out there at Palmer Field. Unless you have anything else to add, I'll ask you, how much is FCTO winning by on Friday night?
I'll go 2-2 with a PK win.
Okay, nice. I like it. I'm going to go 1-0. Just a 1-0, grind it out, keep up the defense, which we have seen. That has pretty much stayed intact. Of course, giving up 4 at Real Monarchs was not great, but still just 18 goals conceded on the year. That is good. Certainly in the top half. I think 5th in the Western Conference right now. And again, that number looked a lot better before you gave up those 4 2 weeks ago. So a 1-0 for me, a 2-2 draw with a PK shootout win for E. Don't care how you get it done, boys. Just bring us the big 3 points. Closing it out quickly. Again, we were looking at the bets before we hit record here, E. Because of the international break, we really want to see, I think, that injury report come out Friday, both with guys who are, confirmed going to Copa America and not going to be active this weekend. Some of the injuries that were ongoing last time we had a picks article posted 2 weeks ago on the northendpodcast.com. So we want to get that full picture. So picks article Friday evening after that injury report drops, northendpodcast.com for that. For our match preview article this Saturday coming up, taking a little bit of a deeper dive into the Rapids, so you can check that out as well. And then on the best ball side of things here, we talked about the 2 transactions that were made over the weekend. Dejan Joveljic in, Yorgos Yakumakis out for Phil West, Miliano Rigoni out, Alex Ring in for the Verde Pendant, and the Verde Pendant holding on to that lead, 762 total points through the first 17 weeks of the best ball season. We are Austin TV in second, 734. Moon Tower Soccer on their ass, 727. Phil West, 678. We're at 644. So, I can sniff that 4th place spot, E. Here it comes. We got 644. Texas Ring of Fire 606. Certainly glad that they will be missing Lionel Messi for the next 5 or 6 game weeks. So hoping to put a little bit more distance between us and the Spoon. But 17 weeks to go, including that transfer window draft in about 6 weeks. So excited for the second half for sure.
I'm definitely excited about it.
All right, everybody. That'll do it for episode 150 of the North End Podcast. We will be back on Sunday, recapping Austin FC's matchup against the Colorado Rapids, recapping FCTO's matchup against Timbers 2, talking about the nonsense and everything else that happens between now and then in the Austin FC universe. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. We're back. It feels good. And we will do the same Until Sunday, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.